It was April 23rd, 2003, and I went to the doctor just for a normal checkup. And I went in and they did the ultrasound. They couldn't find a heartbeat. So they called the doctor in and he checked again and there was no heartbeat. And so he told me that 5 months pregnant, that the baby had died.
It'll have to be March 7th. It's the day I went in for my last doctor's visit. And they have the little ultrasound things they bring in the room. So yeah, he was checking for the heartbeat. We didn't hear heartbeat. But I did tell him that I also didn't know that she hadn't been, moving a lot. But I just thought it's because I was so big. So he scheduled me for the big ultrasound. So I went and, of course, yeah, they didn't find the heartbeat. So I had to schedule to have her. She was delivered March 12th because I pushed her just like a normal delivery. It was just quiet and a little strange.
I think it was fall of 2012. All the kids were in school and I wanted to volunteer at Life Choices, so I became a peer counselor. And after a few months, I think I realized that was probably not my gifting, and they were starting a mentor program, and that sounded like something more I would be interested in, more just relational, what I wanted to do. So I started the mentor program. They later found out that I had had a miscarriage and then a stillborn and then another loss. So they asked if I would ever be willing to just sit and talk to a mom who had had a loss.
So Life Choices ended up reaching out, asking, hey, how's everything going with the newborn? And that's when I told them there is no newborn. So they asked and suggested if I wanted to talk or meet with someone. So I was like, sure.
I remember they called me and they said that there was a girl that was a senior in high school and she had just delivered a stillborn, and would I be willing to meet with her? And I said yes. And they said, she's pretty closed off. She's probably not going to talk to you. And so I just said, okay, I'll meet with her.
If I'm going to talk to someone or invest my feelings in someone, it's because I really actually like you and want to have a relationship with you. So yes, I have a very hard time trusting people.
We bonded over, I just shared horrible loss and grief. Mine was very different, but it was still a loss, and hers was, awful. And that was, I think, besides, we were both moms, but we'd gone through something awful. So that's what we bonded over. Typically, she would come to my house and we would just sit on the back porch, and sometimes in complete silence. Or she would hand over a journal to me. One of her teachers in high school had given her a journal to write down her feelings, and man, that was just how she communicated everything with me. So I would read it, and sometimes we would talk, sometimes we'd eat lunch or have a snack, and she'd go back home. I would say my biggest challenge in our friendship was early on, just learning how to sit quietly and be there for her and just listen or not listen. Just show up, actually. Sometimes it was just showing up. When she needed somebody or, when she was ready to talk, just being available. So probably just the patience of just waiting, sticking it out. And because, there were times I thought, well, why would she want to be friends with me? Why would she want a relationship with me outside of our, common loss, but she decided she liked me.
My biggest challenge was probably just, opening up to her and trusting her as a person. But time after time, she did show that she cared and was willing to listen, and that was just a big thing for me, because a lot of times that's all I need is just someone to hear me out and let me get it out and go on about my day. There was a point in time where I didn't have anywhere really to go. And so I called her one night. It was me and my daughter. And she answered. I guess that was one of my big things with her. She doesn't have to help, but she's always willing to help. And you don't get that from a lot of people.
And one day she asked, she's like, hey, would you take me to Kennedy's gravesite? And would you go with me? So I said, sure, I'll go. So when we first got out, I didn't know if she wanted to be alone or what. Janiyah was with us too, I think. Anyhow, I ended up just feeling like, okay, I'm just going to get out and walk over there with her. So she told me more about the day and just surrounding the circumstances. So, I don't know. I guess I just said, hey, let's go to Julia's grave. So we got in the car and drove across town and went to the cemetery and went to her grave. And so I think that's when, I don't know, something happened and we got a little closer.
2014, I wanted to make the decision on my own to get rebaptized, and so I did. Had a big support group there with me. So yeah, I knew I wanted Skinner to baptize me because he had played a big part in helping.
I think I was so excited for her. I mean, for obvious reasons, but also you could just see, I remember being in the office with Mary Arthur and Tara, just the like almost inward struggle. You know, you could just see like she was fighting this battle, and you know, I think she, like you were in, I remember you were in an office chair and you were just crying and you're like, okay, I'm ready.
And because I remember I used to tell you, yes, I'm about to say it was something that led to it, but I remember, I think it was probably being in that house or either after I moved from that house. But like I would tell her, like it used to be like literally like a spiritual battle in my head, like, and I used to hate that. That was one of my trying to break through and get through that, like telling the devil like you won't win, because I remember I used to tell her like it was just randomly, and like I don't have these thoughts or anything anymore, but it was just randomly be the devil in my head saying I hate God or something, like just trying to turn me and make me do bad things, and that used to be a big struggle. So yeah, I think that had a lot to do with it, like.
And she knew. I told her, I said, you know, she knew.
Because I would have to tell myself out loud. Like, when the thoughts came to my head, I would tell myself out loud, I love you, God. I love you, God. Until the thoughts went away. And then, I'll be okay.
Like our church, I mean, I feel like a lot of our churches loved on her, like she said, James Skinner, Tara, you know, Mary Arthur, different people had just come along at different times and loved on her. I think the teacher that gave her the journal was there, wasn't she?
Yeah, I had two teachers came, Miss Maxwell and Miss Johnson.
Yeah. So she had a lot more, it wasn't just me. She had a lot of support.
God has been extremely faithful throughout this friendship. Although we've walked through some very dark times, we've also laughed and celebrated and grown as individuals and families. I'm forever thankful that God uses our brokenness and turns ashes into beauty.